The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert Service. There are strange things done beneath the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have seen queer tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of the gold seemed to hold him like a spell. And he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. 'Twas Christmas Day. We were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of cold through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed, then the lashes froze, till at times we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. That very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe. He turns to me and, Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of a moan, It's this terrible cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead, it's the awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that, foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, and I swore I would not fail. We started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he was ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. Before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. He was lashed to the sleigh, and he seemed to say, You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, now it's up to you to cremate my last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, and on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, and I saw in a thrice it was called the Alice May. I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, said I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. Well, the flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. Then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why, as the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked, and the door I opened wide. There sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar, and he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, Please close that door. For it's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and the storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done beneath the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have seen queer tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Maternity. There once was a square, such a square little square, and he loved a trim triangle. But she was a flirt, and around her skirt vainly she made him dangle. Oh, he wanted to wed, for he had no dread of domestic woes and wrangles, for he thought that his fate was to procreate cute little squares and triangles. Now it happened one day, in that geometric way, up swaggered a big bold cube. To his haughty stare he made that square have the air of a perfect boob. To his solid spell the triangle fell, and she swooned with love's sweet sickness. For she took delight in his breadth and height, but how she adored his thickness. Well, that poor little square just died of despair, for his love he could not strangle, while the bold cube led to the bridal bed that cute and acute triangle. Now the square's sad lot she has long forgot, and his passionate pretensions, as she dotes on her kids, such cute pyramids, in a world of 3 dimensions.